and I don't like to fail at anything at all. So I can set it aside if you're willing to set it aside. Let me earn your respect. Let me earn the job. I won't fail you. I won't back down from a challenge. And I'll also admit when I'm wrong.
I think that the American public, certainly Republicans, are probably more with Markwayne Mullin in this discussion. And I'm not suggesting anybody favors political violence or what have you, but sort of the soft-spoken, genteel, decorous discussion group that the United States Senate has become is what so many MAGA voters are very frustrated with right now. And I'm sure you've talked a lot about the SAVE Act, for example, and this talk of the filibuster and the Roberts Rules of Order crap. I think MAGA and the base of President Trump's is much more where Markwayne Mullin is right now, ready to stand up and have a good old dust up, if need be, to get things done. Not advisable, not advocating it, but people are fighting mad right now. They're concerned for the country. They don't want to talk about it anymore.
All right, guys, good Thursday. Yeah, it's a big day. I mean, I know the Japanese prime minister is in town, but more importantly, March Madness starts. This is a big deal. Although I got to be honest, like I don't think I just got my bracket done. Every year I get caught off guard. I don't know why. I say the next year. I don't know. I think I've got Arizona, by the way. I'm going against the grain. A lot of people, everyone in my family picked Duke. I don't know why. I think they just thought, well, number one pick. But anyway, tomorrow, by the way, a great conversation with Peter St. Onge at the Heritage Foundation, a great economist, about the impact that oil is having on the economy. What does it mean politically for the economy, all sorts of stuff. So don't want to miss that. And then, as I said, I am so excited. I'm going to be rolling out a lot of stuff at SeanSpicer.com from my upcoming book, Trump 2.0. I'll share with you guys all of the new endorsements, what President Trump did, writing. He's endorsed all 4 of my other books, which has just been a complete, utter honor. And when he offered to write the foreword, I didn't ask. He literally said, well, would you like me to write the foreword? When the President of the United States asks you, you don't say no. And it's really cool. I'm very honored. I'm very blessed. So I appreciate everything that he did to do this. So anyway, I'm excited to share more from this. But before we get into it with the panel, you guys know we talk a lot about MAHA. We talk about making yourself better, getting on that track to wellness. But if you've got a dog, man's best friend deserves the same kind of treatment. There are supplements that you can get for your dog to help them along with a better coat, more longevity, more playfulness, all that stuff, which is why I've started to add rough greens to my dog's diet. And the coolest part about this is that you give them the essential vitamins, mineral, probiotics, digestive enzymes, omega oils that we look for as humans. And a doctor, a naturopathic doctor who has been on this journey said, why can't I be doing this for my best friend as well? Dr. Black did an amazing job developing rough greens, and it provides longevity and supplements in the diet that really give your dog the ability to stay more active and mobile and alert. You will see it, like I saw it in my dog pretty quickly. Like the coat gets a little shinier, the spring in their step gets a little bit. And the thing is, traditional dog food sits on the shelves for literally months on end. And I don't know. I've never asked my dog because they can't talk how they feel about it. But the cool thing about rough greens, you're not changing your food. All you're doing is sprinkling a little on top. I do it once a day. I take a scoop, put it in the evening meal, and the dog laps it up. You don't have to change the food. That's the cool part. You just add it to the top. And right now, Rough Greens is offering a free Jumpstart bag. All you do is cover shipping. Use discount code SPICER at Rough Greens, RUFF greens.com. Use promo code SPICER. And there's some cool stuff that comes with a bandana, a toy. My dog loved the whole thing. So don't change your food. Help your dog by just adding a supplement to their lives at roughgreens.com, promo code SPICER. All right, before I kick in with the panel, though, you guys know I love to get eggs and omelets in the morning. I cook chicken, steak in the evening, and I've added the Firecracker Farm hot salt to my little repertoire. It adds an element that nothing else can. And you get this stainless push grinder. It is so cool. It's etched right here. It says Firecracker Farm. You just hit one little thing and it comes right off. It's mixed. It's salt mixed, hot salt mixed with these peppers. And I'm telling you, it's a kick. It's a flavor that you've never tasted at anything else. I use a lot of stuff when I kind of get the chicken, in particular the eggs, salt, and pepper. This stuff is unbelievable. It's an unbelievable, satisfying control. The folks at Black Rifle, if you ever go by a Black Rifle outlet, like a place where you can buy the coffee. They've got it there as well. Megyn Kelly, Joe Rogan, all the folks are talking about it. Here's the coolest part. Alex, who invented Firecracker Farm, and his family live in Florida and use their business to teach kids about agriculture and entrepreneurship. They give back, though, to America's heroes, those who have sacrificed and served, like the Op 300 group and the Pipe Hitter Foundation. They're the real deal. I love these guys. I love this brand. If you guys want to take your food to a whole new level, check out firecracker.farm. Use code SPICER for 10% off. That's firecracker.farm, and you will thank me for it. If you, again, it's a kick like nothing else. Go to firecracker.farm. Let me bring in our panel, though, to break down so much that's going on in the world of politics. Our buddy up there in Philadelphia, Chris Stigall, welcome back. Patrice Onwuka, who is doing a great job as the Vice President for Economic Policy over at the Independent Women's Forum. But more importantly, I mean, let's be honest, she carries Larry O'Connor on a temporary basis from time to time, fills in on WMAL. I love hearing her on there, and it makes Larry almost tolerable. And then our good buddy over at the Daily Caller, the editor-in-chief herself, Miss Amber Duke. Good to see you all. Chris Stigall, I've been covering or watching or working in Congress for 30 years. I have never seen a red-on-red opening like I did with Rand Paul and Markwayne Mullin. Rand kicks it off. I won't play you the whole thing, but I want to give you a sense of how Rand Paul started the hearing. So he's the chairman. He normally, welcome everybody, the witness. I'm excited to hear your credentials. I mean, that's your normal Washington BS. This is the first few seconds of Rand Paul to a senator, a fellow colleague who, by the way, Chris Stigall, if he doesn't get confirmed, he stays in the Senate and they got to party together and hang out. This is Chris Stigall to fellow Senator Markwayne Mullin. Opening hearing, go.
Recently, Senator Mullin, if you have time to listen, you were confronted by constituents that were angry because you voted against my amendment to stop all funding for refugee welfare programs. Instead of explaining your vote to continue these welfare programs for refugees, you decided to transfer the blame. You told the media that I was a freaking snake and that you completely understood why I had been assaulted. I was shocked that you would justify and celebrate this violent assault that caused me so much pain and my family so much pain. I just wonder if someone who applauds violence against their political opponents is the right person to lead an agency that has struggled to accept limits to the proper use of force.
All right, Chris Stigall, I'll save you the other 2 minutes. I got to be honest. These are two guys who work together. This incident didn't happen on Tuesday. This is like 6 years ago, and there's still like this much tension.
Yeah, they clearly are not going to be exchanging Christmas cards. Rand Paul laid something out yesterday during that hearing, and in that opening, I saw that. And he is right in that things have turned so ugly, the political violence in this country almost exclusively directed at Republicans. I am certain that he does feel it in his inner core. I mean, he's been hospitalized. He was at the baseball game when Steve Scalise was shot. He's seen and experienced a lot. So he's sensitive to it, and I do respect that. Markwayne Mullin is a unique breed of cat who, I played the clip. Remember when he stood up and said, "I'll fight you right now," in that last hearing, not Rand Paul. I kind of like his moxie. He's a tough guy. They don't get along. They don't see eye to eye. And Markwayne Mullin popped off and said something like, I can see why he got the hell kicked out of him. Now, the thing is, of course, while they're on the same team, they don't have to like one another, and we understand that. The merits of Rand Paul's criticism to Markwayne Mullin was a piece of legislation that he didn't think he should have supported. But it quickly turned not from that. It turned to a character thing, that Markwayne Mullin's too much of a hothead and too violent to be the secretary. I actually would have liked Rand Paul to stay with the original legislation that he was challenging Markwayne Mullin over. I think that would have been more interesting. Otherwise, you're just talking about two guys who are stylistically different, which is interesting, but not the meat of the argument.
Amber Duke, I honestly, though, it was personal. It wasn't like this was about like you've upset me. You said this, and that was something that I got to be honest with you. I thought that's what you work out ahead of the hearing, not there for everyone in the public. And Rand Paul saying, I don't think you have the character to lead the Department of Homeland Security. That's not like we got some beef between each other. That's like I'm saying you're not the like. And as I said, if he doesn't get it, Amber, guess where he goes back to? Being his buddy and his colleague. Like I mean, this to me was very. I've not seen anything of this level red on red in 30 years.
It was wild, and it was very personal, and you're exactly right. Typically, they will sit down with the nominee ahead of the hearing, work out those differences so that they can at least conduct the hearing professionally and focus on the substance. Rand Paul obviously was not interested in that. He wanted to air these grievances publicly, and I would note that when Markwayne Mullin's nomination came up for a vote in the committee to advance to the full Senate, who did not vote for him? Senator Rand Paul. It was Democrat John Fetterman who had to jump across the aisles to help advance that nomination.
Crazy. Patrice, this is how, okay, so Rand says all that, but this is how Mullin responds.
Senator Mullin, you are recognized for your opening statement.
I think before I can start my opening statement, I have to address the remarks that the chairman made, calling me a liar. Sir, I think everybody in this room knows that I'm very blunt and direct to the point, and if I have something to say, I'll say it directly to your face. If you recall, back in my House days, we actually did have this conversation because of the remarks that I've made. You were in a room. I simply addressed that I said I could understand because of the behavior you were having, that I could understand why the neighbor did what he did. As far as my terms, the snake in the grass, sir, I work around this room to try to fix problems. I've worked with many people in this room. Seems like you fight Republicans more than you work with us.
All right, Patrice on Wilco, this isn't a guy who's like, hey, guy, look, I was taken out of context and I'm really sorry. He's like, yeah, I called you that. Like I mean, Amber Duke just set the stage. Like, this was you had to hope at this point now for a Democratic lifeline that came in the form of John Fetterman.
And I think he knows he's going to get that lifeline. I mean, I think that's why he was so elbows sharp against Rand Paul. Obviously, there's no love lost there. But I think, while I'm sure he wanted to go in there, Mullin wanted to go in there with the projection of a steady hand, someone who is going to be not what the previous DHS secretary was, which was like a prima donna looking to boost her, her image everywhere. That he was going to be the guy who's going to get the work done. He's going to bring the relationships on the Hill if money is needed for DHS. And then he's going to try and demonstrate that, hey, he can bring some change that's needed, but still advance the Trump agenda of mass deportations just in a way that is more tolerable and acceptable. And so I'm actually fine with his response because, number one, you still have to show that you've got some moxie and are going to go up against those who are going to disagree with you. Having been in a Senate hearing in that seat, though not for a nomination, usually you're supposed to be docile and it's yes, chairman, no chairman, yes, ranking member, no ranking member. And I think because he is a colleague, he feels like, you know what, I'm going to dispense with these formalities and I'm going to get down to brass, knowing that there's one guy who's also watching right now, and that's President Trump. And I'm sure President Trump was pleased with that, with his performance. All
right. So Chris DeGaulle, Patrice says, Trump probably pleased with the performance. I want to play you two more clips back to back. Real quick, I'm going to play you what Mullin kind of did to do kind of what Patrice was alluding to. Hey, I want to earn your respect. And then I'm going to play you how it ends. Rand outside with the media because clearly it didn't work. So let's start with Mullin. We'll go right to Rand Paul.
And I don't like to fail at anything at all. So I can set it aside if you're willing to set it aside. Let me earn your respect. Let me earn the job. I won't fail you. I won't back down from a challenge. And I'll also admit when I'm wrong. I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be perfect. I make mistakes just like anybody else. But mistakes, if you own them, you can learn from them and you can move ahead. And I'll make that commitment to you.
All right, so then here's Rand Paul with the press.
Planning on voting for this nominee?
I think there are anger issues. I think there's a lack of contrition, both about the violence that was perpetrated on me, really the violent episode he was involved in the Senate committee where he's told the media, frankly, that he doesn't regret it. He's also told the media he said it again today, that there's historical precedent for violence, that caning and dueling happened all the time. And I pointed out, well, it was illegal 170, 200 years ago. they would actually flee, and they would do it in areas they could find where the law didn't reach. Sometimes they would actually go to Canada, sometimes they'd go from one state to the other. But the mass of civilized response, even in the 1850s or 1830s, was against dueling. That's why dueling was made illegal.
All right, Chris DeGaulle, here he is. I mean, that clearly the contrition part that Patrice was alluding to didn't work. And Rand Paul goes out and says he doesn't have the temperament. He fought, that the labor leader, Sean O'Brien. I mean, it's actually a great clip. You said you played it. I mean, and then they get into a whole discussion about dueling and whether or not it was legal or not. I mean, this was amazing to me.
Yeah, I think.
By the way, just real quick, Chris DeGaulle, normally you expect the Democrats to come after you. In fact, I expected some of the Democrats to almost say, I yield all my time to the chairman.
I will say that I think that the American public, certainly Republicans, are probably more with Markwayne Mullin in this discussion. And I'm not suggesting anybody favors political violence or what have you, but sort of the soft-spoken, genteel, decorous discussion group that the United States Senate has become is what so many MAGA voters are very frustrated with right now. And I'm sure you've talked a lot about the SAVE Act, for example, and this talk of the filibuster and the Robert's Rules of Order crap. I think MAGA and the base of President Trump's is much more where Markwayne Mullin is right now, ready to stand up and have a good old dust up, if need be, to get things done. Not advisable, not advocating it, but people are fighting mad right now. They're concerned for the country. They don't want to talk about it anymore.
All right, well, let's switch hearings, Amber Duke. Tulsi was on the Hill both days, today and yesterday. I want to play you a clip yesterday. Here's what I want you to listen to, though. Obviously, and we'll get to the guy named Joe Kent. He was one of her acolytes. He resigned. I want to talk about him separately. But she was going to get grilled about whether or not this intelligence, there was an imminent threat. I thought that this was going to be a big test for her, whether or not everybody felt like she stood up for President Trump and his policies enough. Take a listen to what she said.
However, the intelligence community assesses that Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, and Pakistan have been researching and developing an array of novel, advanced, or traditional missile delivery systems with nuclear and conventional payloads that put our homeland within range. The IC assesses that threats to the homeland will expand collectively to more than 16,000 missiles by 2035, from the current assessed figure of more than 3,000 missiles. The IC assesses that China and Russia are developing advanced delivery systems meant to be capable of penetrating or bypassing U.S. missile defenses. North Korea's ICBMs can already reach U.S. soil, and the IC assesses that it is committed to expanding its nuclear arsenal. Pakistan's long-range ballistic missile development potentially could include ICBMs with a range capable of striking the homeland.
Okay, so she went there. I think she held her own. But Amber, I mean, did she do enough? Because I thought I came to a recognition, which is, and I'll admit this, I graded on a curve, right? Tulsi does not like intervention. She thinks that, I mean, if you go back, she has made very public statements about Iran. So my view was if she came in and got out with just unscathed, that was a win. A lot of people at MAGA felt like she should have been more defensive of the president's policy. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I guess given her past statements and what we know her position to be, she kind of towed the line the best that she possibly could. There was one sort of blip that made waves on social media, which was that she had her prepared written remarks to say that as a result of Operation Midnight Hammer, Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated. There have been no efforts since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. She apparently skipped over that line when she actually read her remarks to the hearing room, and then was asked about that and basically said, well, I skipped over it because I thought that we were running short on time. And her spokesperson was battling with a lot of people on X yesterday about whether or not they should read into her skipping over that statement. So that was the one moment that I think got her a little bit into trouble. But overall, I think she did a fine enough job sort of maneuvering the political situation here.
Okay. Patrice, I mentioned, and by the way, if any of you guys think differently, I and maybe it's not fair, but I felt like John Radcliffe, the CIA director, was very, very forceful in his belief that Iran faced an imminent threat. I just don't think that Tulsi believes it. And therefore, I guess I was grading on a curve saying all I think she needs to do is get out of there.
Well, I'll tell you quickly, and I don't mean to interrupt
Yeah.
Patrice's time, but I will just say that James Langford, the senator from Oklahoma who was on that committee yesterday, was on my show this morning. And I asked him, I said, did Tulsi Gabbard effectively dodge whether there was intelligence about Iran being a threat, an immediate threat, to which he basically confirmed, well, she did, yes. But to your point, Sean, he went on to say Ratliff made up for it and made a clear
But can I just ask you guys broadly, and just anyone pipe in here, but like, what I don't get is that we're having a somewhat silly conversation. Imminent threat. Okay, they chant death to America. They kill our service members. They take out innocent civilians. And this definition of whether or not they're going to attack us tomorrow or Thursday or next December, to me, is somewhat immaterial. Like, if you know that your house is getting broken into, but someone says, I can't tell you the day or the time. You know, it's funny. Maybe I'm just reading, it's Lent and I'm too much into the Bible right now. But there's a great quote where it's just, if we all knew the time and place that the Lord would come back, we would act probably a lot behavior. And so we're asked to be better all the time, because that's the beauty of not knowing when, is that you're supposed to live, in accordance with what God has asked all the time. And I feel like in the similar way, we're being asked, we have a threat, and we're having a silly discussion about, is it tomorrow? Is that imminent? Is it 2 months from now? Is that imminent? If you can take it out, why wouldn't you take it out?
Well, that's the opportunity part. I think right now this is really, it's a moot point because, we're already here. So we are already at the point where, as Tulsi Gabbard said, the military capabilities have been decimated, although she also acknowledged that the leadership is still intact in Iran. And I think that's probably one of the other standout lines that from her remarks that, stood out to me. I think she was kind of milquetoast. I think she just barely did enough to say, okay, there was a threat in Iran. But listening to the rest of her remarks, there are threats around the whole world. Frankly, we have the hot spots in every single country right now. And so I honestly think she kind of muddled the situation to getting to the core point of why now, why the United States right now in this moment acting when we have lots of other, high alert threats from other nations. That's it. I don't think it matters. I think it's important, to your point, Sean. Yes, if we have the opportunity and we have the means, and as President Trump mentioned, what was earlier this week, a call with a former president, U.S. president, who said, "I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. It needed to be done." I think that's all kind of the rationale that needs to be made here.
Amber Duke, I want to move on to this Joe Kent guy, right? So the other morning, there's breaking news. Joe Kent resigns. Some people sent it to me right away. You got to see this. This is going to be a problem. And I thought to myself initially, this is going to be clickbait for Tucker and Megyn and everyone who says Israel pushed us into this war. Okay. And then as the day goes on, you start to hear a lot of concerns about who Joe Kent is and the fact that he was marginalized, he was disgruntled. We're hearing now that there's been an FBI investigation going on for 3 months for him leaking classified information. And then there's a clip that came out of him on the Sean Ryan podcast. Amber, I don't know if you've seen this, but I want to play for you because this is a guy who wrote a letter that got a lot of the media all fired up. He doesn't believe that the threat was that imminent. He believes that we were pushed into this war by Israel and it was a propaganda machine. But here he is on tape not too long ago talking to Sean Ryan about Iran.
They're still registering for the draft, aren't they? Like that's the logical conclusion to the direction that we're heading in right now, unless we make some serious changes.
I mean, I've already heard rumors that Fifth Group is going to be sending guys to Iraq because of the escalated situation with Iran now.
Yeah. I mean, most Americans aren't aware of it. Our troops in Iraq and Syria have been attacked 150 plus times by Iranian proxies. And when we say Iranian proxies, we got to be clear on what that is. That's the Iraqi government that we pay. Because after the Iraqi military, we spent $2 trillion on, surrendered to ISIS, we had to go back in there in very short order and stand the military back up again. And guess who filled the breach? The Shia militias controlled by Iran did. And the Iraqi government's controlled by Iran.
There you go. I mean, guys talking about the threat. And yet, it's funny how the house of cards fell so quickly.
Well, I think a lot of the questions that people have is about the timing of the operation. And that's why I do think the imminent threat question does matter, because if someone is chanting death to America for 20, 30 years, then the administration should be able to answer, okay, well, why now? But on the leaking side of this and the FBI investigation, I will say I have questions about that, because if he was in this high level position he was with access to top secret and classified information, if he was under investigation for leaking, I believe the proper protocol is that he should have been placed on leave or removed from that position, but he was supposedly allowed to stay in there for multiple months. And then there's also the question of why J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard met with him before he resigned and told him to talk to the president before making any big decisions. If he was a bad guy and was leaking constantly, why would they care whether or not he resigned from the administration? They should have wanted him to.
Yeah, I mean, I will say there are some unanswered questions. I'm with you. If you're a known leaker, then you're right. Protocol is that you remove that individual until the investigation clears you or finds you guilty. That being said, it's a little like, I get it, but I guess my biggest beef was more with the media and the way they covered it. The idea that somehow the guy that they called a conspiracy theorist a few months back is suddenly the most credible guy in the world because he wrote a letter. As long as you're against Trump, we're now going to make you credible.
Yeah,
again.
classic scenario.
Yeah. All right, guys, we continue to see debate on the SAVE Act. And Chris brought this up earlier. Yes, I've been talking about this all week. I had Scott Pressler on the show yesterday. Normally I'm an optimist when it comes to elections. I always feel like I'm going to win. But on the policy part, I feel like the Senate is going to do the basic amount, the least amount to go through the motions, Patrice, and they're going to say, John Thune keeps saying, we don't have the votes. It's more like you didn't try.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much outroar, a public outcry, in support of getting this bill passed. And I know these senators are hearing from their members right now, from their constituents right now, that they need to at least try and get this done. And also, you've got the White House pressure where President Trump says, I'm not going to touch another piece of legislation until you get this bill, the SAVE Act done. And we're looking at housing of reform, which would be really important for affordability, something that Republicans can campaign on in the midterms. That is literally going to be held up because this is not moving here. So, I'd like to see them act on the SAVE Act. I've been in some briefings with some insiders who are very pessimistic about it passing right now, but they also recognize that constituents want to see it get done.
Chris, do you have any sense that you think this thing will get over the finish line?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't. Back to my conversation with Senator Lankford, I asked him two questions. Number one, okay, can you implement this talking filibuster thing? He said what Thune has said. If we do that, and I'm not going to bore everybody with procedure, but that allows for amendments and a bunch of stuff we don't want, and you don't want that. And then I said, okay, what about nuking the filibuster, just doing away with it, simple majority? No, we can't do that because then that, Katie bar the door, that would open up trouble. Democrats, when they take over someday, that's where I think here again, the base gets upset because I don't know how you or anybody else feels about doing away with the filibuster, but when Republicans say things like, someday we won't run this place, and when the Democrats are here, if we do this, why, they'll run roughshod over us. And most of us are saying, yeah, they have and
yes,
will.
Yes.
So do it because they're gonna if you don't.
I mean, it's the dumbest thing ever. I feel like they didn't, this isn't theoretical. They voted last time. They came up 2 votes short. And the 2 votes that they came up short with, Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, have both been gone bye-bye. And there are new people that support it. So I went to public school when I learned how to count, and 49 plus 2 is 51, and therefore it goes bye-bye. I don't know why. I'm with you, Chris. Like, I actually kind of like the filibuster, but I'm also smart enough to know that they will make it go away. And Amber, I just don't know why. This is Ted Cruz, by the way. I mean, if there's one piece of legislation, this is Ted Cruz talking about this, and yet we're having trouble passing this.
You need a photo ID to enroll in college. You need a photo ID to open a bank account. You need a photo ID to check into a hotel. And I got to admit, this is my personal favorite. You need a photo ID, actually 2 photo IDs, to shovel snow in New York City.
I don't know. I mean, to me, there are days when I'm like, if we can't sell this, we're done. But I mean, Patrice, there are certain things that are tough because their policy can be kind of in the weeds. This is not in the weeds. Like,
it's very clear, Sean, and you
know
what?
Patrice, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked you. I know as a black woman, this has got to be very difficult for you to get an ID. I apologize. I didn't even think about
right.
When I asked you, I forgot you Democrats. I didn't hear my own talking. I have to send you some kind of gift or something. Like, this was insulting. I know. I've heard the Democrats talk about this. I forgot. I should have not gone to you. Do you want to talk about how difficult it is for?
It's triggering, Sean. But yes, as a black person and a woman who is married, meaning my birth certificate last name does not reflect my current last name. Yes, it would be. Listen, I think Republicans can easily, get cut through the noise on that. I think most thinking people recognize the only people who are perpetrating the same line, are Democrats who are at this point are so desperate, and President Obama in his ads that I keep seeing here in the DC area. Republicans can absolutely and should absolutely push to get this piece of legislation passed. And if they're not willing to do that, then that tells me, what team really are you on? Are you with the Democrats, or are you really trying, or do you actually stand up for, elections? And it's interesting when you look at states that actually have some sort of voter ID requirements when registering, voter turnout is virtually the same compared to those states who don't. So this is not an issue about disenfranchisement or voter turnout. You can easily debunk all of those for any Republicans who still have questions.
It's insane to me. I want to, Patrice name check this ad. So for everyone who doesn't live here, I talked about this yesterday on the show with Scott Pressler. We are in the midst of a vote, which I think is unbelievably unconstitutional, on whether or not the Democrats can redraw the current 6-5 map to a 10-1 map. And again, like I said, I'll do a show closer about how crazy this is. But I want you to hear this. President Obama is doing an ad, and Patrice just mentioned this because they're flooding the airways. The Republican response is frankly pathetic. But you have to hear how Obama frames this. Just listen to the key words in this 30-second ad that Obama is playing all throughout Virginia, but particularly for us in the Northern Virginia area. This is Obama talking about this effort. Take a listen.
Virginia, we are counting on you. Republicans want to steal enough seats in Congress to rig the next election and wield unchecked power for 2 more years. But you can stop them by voting yes by April 21st. Help put our elections back on a level playing field and let voters decide, not politicians. This is the responsible thing to do. Help us chart a better path forward, Virginia. Vote yes by April 21st.
Okay, Chris DeGaulle. I don't even know where to start. In 30 seconds, I haven't seen so much lying. It is unbelievable. So this is what Obama says. Republicans are stealing seats to rig the election. Okay, I thought we weren't allowed to say that, but no. That's unbelievable. Then he says we should allow voters, not politicians. Now, keep in mind the context for everyone here. The Commonwealth of Virginia had a ballot question in 2020, which passed by 63%, that said a commission should draw like nonpartisan drawing of the lines, not this. So then they are taking it back and claiming, like, I mean, this is the biggest I'm mind blown.
Yeah, it's the same issue in California, and the Supreme Court ultimately would be the only entity to step in and stop it.
Chris, with all due respect, Gavin Newsom, like he said, we're doing this because of Texas. He at least was honest with his voters.
Well, that's right.
Okay, Virginia's straight up lying.
Well, I think this is the last gasp of a party that ultimately knows by 2030, as we heard from the census. I mean, they're going to lose a tremendous number of. This is trying to staunch what will ultimately be a Democrat hemorrhage, I believe, over the next 4 or 5 years, as more and more people leave blue states and head to red states. I think the makeup of the House is just naturally, because citizens have left so many of these blue states, are going to look different. And so I think, maybe in short order, the chicanery will suit them well, but I don't think in the long run, I don't think it does much for them. I'm not sweating it too much. I know you guys in Virginia are, and I'm sorry for that.
Dude, you realize that 4 additional seats could be the difference between the majority and the minority.
Sure.
So this is Speaker Hakeem Jeffries.
Yeah. Today. I'm not thrilled about it, but I mean, it's, here's the thing. We states, we have this federalism thing that's a sticky wicket, isn't it? And it's one of those things. The Supreme Court doesn't want to touch this stuff. They let the states sort it out and fight it out. And if voters, particularly conservatives and Republicans, are too apathetic to vote on it, it's kind of what we get stuck with. That's the system, I'm afraid. I don't mean to be defeatist about it, but you know what I mean?
All right. So Amber Duke, here's what I don't get. Obama, the president of the United States, who's criticized everything that Trump has said and done, literally comes out in that ad that I just played you guys and said, Republicans are stealing seats to rig the election. Where's the outcry? If Donald Trump says this, literally everyone on NBC News goes, without evidence, without evidence, without evidence. That's not, this has nothing, what's going on in Virginia has nothing to do with any Republicans. It has nothing to do with fairness. It has nothing to do with, it literally is a lie. And no one in the media, no one is saying that that's just simply not true. I get to Chris Stegall's standpoint to some degree, which is to the winner goes the spoils, right? If you want to redistrict, just call it what it is. Gavin Newsom at least was honest when he said, hey, guess what? We're doing this in California because of what happened in Texas. I think it was ridiculous, but at least he didn't BS about it. Virginia is lying to people and no one's calling them out.
It's absolutely disgusting what they're trying to do in the way that they're talking about it. I mean, I live in Fairfax County. They're literally trying to split our county up across 5 different districts so that the blue voters in Fairfax, besides, I guess, myself and my husband and the few other conservatives who live there, their votes drown out the central and southern, more rural parts of Virginia that tend to vote red. It's very obvious what they're doing. I mean, they have districts that literally snake up from Southwest Virginia all the way up to Nova. And the Virginia Supreme Court has chosen to stay out of this. So, I hear the federalism point, but it's not even just the U.S. Supreme Court. The Virginia State Supreme Court is refusing to get involved here, even though it's obviously unconstitutional. And what I think is happening here, Sean, I just had a newsletter come out about this morning. Virginia Democrats repeatedly refuse to do basic governance, whether it's crime, education, affordability. They do exactly the opposite of what people vote for. Then they try to take our guns, so they're not going to protect us, but we also can't protect ourselves. And if you want to hold them accountable for doing that, they're going to make sure that you can't do that either, because they're going to redraw the maps to make sure that they have complete consolidation of power. This is all part of the same plan, and it's to disenfranchise people who want to punish them for being complete failures at governance.
Well, and I just add that in Pennsylvania, you talk about a Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court in Pennsylvania actually took it upon themselves to redraw the damned congressional map. So believe you me, I understand a hijacking.
Yeah.
It happened in Pennsylvania. Just the Democrat-run Supreme Court of Pennsylvania decided to do it a few years ago instead.
Patrice, we play this game where once in a while we show how all the Democrats have new talking points. This is Elise Slotkin, senator from Michigan, talking about stealing elections again. Take a listen.
So I would just say, if we ever get to the point where you are being asked to put armed ICE officers at polling locations, we have lost the plot as a country. We have fundamentally lost it. And until I hear someone tell me that this man, President Trump, will actually allow us to have a free and fair election, there is zero trust here, and I cannot trust that he won't try and steal it again.
Again, using that word, like as if he already stole an election, and if he allows us to have a free and fair election. This is insane. I cannot believe that they get away with saying this crap after going after Republicans and President Trump for bringing up, voter integrity issues.
Yeah, notice the buzzwords too. Armed ICE guards at your polling stations. I've seen a couple of Democrats start to weave in their favorite new target, which is ICE armed guards, and talking about that into the conversation about elections intentionally, because they know they're playing up on the emotions of the Democratic base right now, which is to hate ICE. A year ago, they hated Tesla, which is why my Tesla got damaged for no good reason other than being parked in a public parking lot.
Or somebody thought it was Larry's.
Or, well, mine is red. Larry's is white, but yes, maybe. But I mean, the larger point here is that they have this very same narrative, and they're okay to talk about election stealing. And I don't know why they didn't think President Trump won in 2024, and why they didn't think he won in 2016. But we'll probably continue to see this kind of language going forward. She should be ashamed of herself. She should know better. But this is probably what resonates, and I think that's what they're trying to really gin up, which is ire against ICE to get people on the left to turn out.
All right, I want to bring up one topic that I guarantee you none of you saw coming, but it was fascinating to me, maybe just from a PR standpoint. And so I want to do this before we get to winners and losers. You guys remember that viral Coldplay kiss cam at Gillette Stadium? Oprah
Yes.
Winfrey had the woman on. Her name is Kristen Chavez, I think it is. But here is the description that I want to play for you this because I found it fascinating, and I'll tell you why, Amber, on the backside. Take a listen.
So you get to the concert, and what happened?
Well, I was walking into the concert, and my daughter messaged me and said, "Oh, it's so great that you and Andrew are both at Coldplay." So she let me know that my estranged husband was also at the concert.
So I think it's very important. This is what I did not know before the story, and y'all obviously didn't know either, that she was separated from her husband, and that her boss was also separated, or said he was separated from his wife. Did y'all know that?
No.
Okay. All right. Or that her husband was there. This is the thing. So you get texted from one of your children.
Yeah, my daughter was like, "This is so fun, great." I was like, and in my mind, I thought, well, is this going to be weird if he sees me with Andy? Like that crossed
or you
my
run
mind.
into him.
Yeah, if I run into him. But then I was like, I'm in Gillette Stadium. There's 55,000 people here. I'm probably not going to run into him.
All right, so Amber Duke, let me just pull out. Why I found this fascinating is we're now finding out she was estranged from her husband. He, the boss dude, was estranged from her. Yeah, it probably didn't look great from an HR standpoint, but like, why is it that like a year, like this woman got pummeled in the media for an inappropriate, like, and again, there's an HR question. There's no way, okay. But this was like, I'm sort of amazed that a year and a half later, we're all now finding out sort of what I would say are key facts about something that the country was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to be fair, there were a bunch of statements released shortly after the original kiss cam situation happened. And they left all of these sort of exculpatory details out of those statements. And maybe that's just the corporation doing damage control. But I think they would have done themselves a lot of favors if they were clear from the outset, right? Like, this is just bad public relations if all of this is true. Although I suppose she's now saying that Andy, as she called him, her boss, was not actually separated from his wife and perhaps was lying to her as well. So she's now managed to flip the script entirely, and she's now the new victim of this entire scenario.
Interesting. But you know what's weird about it? Here's the thing. Even if all of that's true, what she said, then why is she concerned about her ex-husband seeing her with another man? Why did she react the way she did when they were thrown up on the screen? That doesn't make any sense.
Okay, but I just find it fascinating that like none of this came out, and like I don't know, maybe she said it would have been awkward because anyway, I just saw.
No, Sean, like, I don't think it matters. Maybe I'm old school, and I just feel like you shouldn't be dating unless the ink is signed on your divorce in both situations. And then you can go out there and you don't have to hide your face and cover in shame.
Well, no, there is an HR question, right? I mean, there's no way.
And she was the head of HR too. I mean, yes, that's part of it. She's just trying to do rehab on her own career. And I think that's why she went on Oprah and had all the people, oh, I didn't know.
By the way, can we also talk about something new I learned? Oprah's still doing a show?
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know that.
All right. Well, we have. I want to get through winners and losers real quick because we press for time. Patrice, I'll start with you. Give me your winner and your loser.
Winner, all of the women that Cesar Chavez has raped and molested, including when they were 13, 8 years old, finally able to come forward. All the losers are people who put his name on every building, monument, and school that should now be taking it down.
So glad you brought this up. The Dems are now, they live by the woke sword. They die by it. All these streets in D.C. and schools that need to remove his name now. Amber, go. I love that one.
All right, winner is Jay Bhattacharya. He testified to the House this week and got bipartisan praise from both Democrats and Republicans because he's just doing a really damn good job. He's got the grant process streamlined now to tamp down the Democratic criticism. And on the Republican side, he's doing MAHA initiatives. He's trimming the fat. I think he is had a fantastic week.
Awesome. Chris Tegal, give me your winner and loser real quick.
Winner, the governor of the Show Me State, Mike Kehoe, has successfully ushered through the Republican legislature there, and if goes through well through the Senate, a vote of the people of Missouri to do away with income tax in Missouri. I'm all for that. Anytime a state can vote to say no more income tax. And then loser, Joe and Mika. They have lost an hour of their show.
Another great one. Another great one. All right, well, I'm going to start. This is easy. My winner. Navy football, they are at the White House tomorrow being honored for their second consecutive Commander-in-Chief trophy. And I just want to make sure I take credit, take a moment because you never know when you'll do this again. My loser, though, dovetails off of what Chris Tegal said. This is Governor Kathy Hochul of New York.
Yes, that was mine.
I want to play you. Then you can tag team on this, Amber. Here are two clips that I think are critical. This is her when she didn't like certain people living in New York. Go.
And we're here to say that the era of Trump and Zeldin and Molinaro, just jump on a bus and head down to Florida where you belong, okay? Get out of town. Get out of town. Because you don't represent our values. You are not New Yorkers.
Yeah, get out of town. But now, apparently, enough of them got out of town, but they also left with their money, so now this is her.
Now, there are some patriotic millionaires who stepped up. Okay, cut me the checks. I mean, just if you want to be supportive, but maybe the first step should be go down to Palm Beach and see who you can bring back home, because our tax base has been eroded.
Our tax base has been eroded. Yeah, guess what? You tell everyone to leave. You have a bunch of massive policies. Guess what? They leave, and guess what goes with them? Their money. So good for Kathy Hochul. Good
Total leopards ate my face moment. Just the entirely predictable thing that everyone said would happen happened.
I know.
By the way, can I point out that August clip, the Dow at 32,000? I just happened to notice that in the corner. Now, even at a loss right now, we're at 46.
Yeah.
Good grief.
Yeah. And by the way, I talked to some folks the other day. All that's happening in California, all those rich guys, they keep trying to tax them. They leave. Anyway, amazing panel with you guys today. Thank you all for being here. Remember to go on to Amazon right now and order Trump 2.0. President Trump wrote the foreword to the book. We've got a great discussion on oil prices, the economy, and what that means for the impact on the midterms tomorrow. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you back here tomorrow on The Sean Spicer Show.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.